Hi, everybody. This is day 22. Can you believe it? Day 22 of Imagine a Miracle Every Day. I have managed to be out here again as it's late, and you can hear all of the geese that are making their beautiful sounds. I was talking to my brother about the miracles that I've been having happen in my life, and also the miracles that have been happening in the life of one of the people who is doing this practice. Had wrote to me today saying that she was so thanking me for doing this practice. This practice is really opening up so much in myself, and I know some other people who are doing the practice. So imagining the miracle every day, imagining myself as Jesus, imagining these scriptures has given me tools as to what to say. My brother and I started talking because I had told him I rebuke things in my own self, like thoughts that come up that say, "Oh, I don't see how this can get done," or "Oh, that sounds pretty impossible. How are we going to be able to make that happen before this date," or something like that. And he said, "You do that too?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been doing this practice, and it's really teaching me that all things are possible with God." Number one, I read the scriptures, and it says, with faith, you can move a mountain, and nothing will be impossible unto thee. And then all things with men, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. And it's taken me practicing that thought, applying it for 2 years for me to have it to sink in, for me to understand that that's really, really true. So I'm gonna today's miracle is gonna be coming from, like I said, this is day 22 for November 15th, which is tomorrow, 2023. It's in two places in the Bible. Might do that thing where I did yesterday where I talk about both instances, but this one is my favorite, one of my favorites of all time. This is Luke 8, verses 49 to 56. And then it's also in, where is that? Mark 5, verses 35 to 42. It's worded a little bit differently, but the principle is the same. So when you imagine this, this is what happens. This is at the tail end of another miracle, like many of these are. And this is at the tail end of the story about Jairus. Well, this is Jairus' daughter being healed, but also the woman who had the issue of blood who touches his garment and is immediately healed. And in this one, I want you to see in your mind the setup. And if you get a chance to read the previous, like from verse 40, or from verse 40 down to where we're going to start, which is 51, then you'll understand the context of the story. But even without that, just know that Jesus has healed the woman who actually the virtue, the power in Jesus has healed the woman who touched the board of his garment. And then she falls down and says, before all of them, like, why she even touched his garment. And then he tells her that her faith has made her whole and for her to go in peace, which is really, really, really something. Like, do you believe that your faith makes you whole? I had to ask myself these questions, like, do I really understand that when I touch Christ and when I have faith, that I am immediately made whole? And this might be something that you can take yourself on about too. Anyway, while he is saying that to the lady who is down, saying that that's why she did it, then, all right, here's where it says, starting from 50. But when Jesus heard it, he answered him, saying, "Oh, no, no, actually, we're not there. We're at 49. While he yet spake, there cometh one from the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying to him, Thy daughter is dead. Trouble not the master." Now, when I imagine that this man comes and whispers in the ear of Jairus, that, I imagine him being kind of quiet and saying, "Trouble not the master." He leans over and he's talking to him. And he says, "Trouble not the master, your daughter's dead." And Jairus probably becomes overwhelmed, overcome with grief. and he might start crying, or maybe he just wells up with something, and he's saying, because when he hears that his daughter's dead, trouble not the master, he's got to feel something, but because he came there to try to get Jesus to go and help his daughter. Now, here, the daughter is dead, and but Jesus overhears it. Because Jesus actually is so tuned in, he overhears. And here's another thing that I thought is like he overhears, and you know what he says? Can you imagine the kind of faith, the amount of spirit, the amount of power, the amount of confidence that he had to say that he overhears, and he's answered them saying, he leans over, he looks at them and he goes, "Fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole." Now he has the nerve, the audacity, the faith, the knowledge, the power in him to be able to say something that huge to somebody else, that they should fear not and believe only, and she should be made whole. Oh my goodness. I think we did this one before. And when he came into the house, he suffered no man to go in save Peter and James and John and the father and the mother of the maiden. But the reason why I like to I'm going to go through this again. And all wept. So they go in and they look at her and they start weeping. That's not the feeling of trusting that she's going to be made whole. That's not what he's trying to tell them to do. He's telling them that they need to have a certain kind of belief that overcomes fear of death. And so what he does is he says, weep, but he said, weep not, weep not. I can imagine him not hollering at them, but insisting, weep not. And many times I feel like I have to use that on my own self. I have to tell myself, weep not in the face of something that seems really horrible. Like, weep not. I have to believe she is not dead, but sleepeth. There may be some things that you can use this kind of faith for in your life. It may not be that you bring back somebody from the dead, but certainly in the face of circumstances that seem impossible, that you can apply weep not, believe only, because the situation is not dead. And he put them, and they laughed him to scorn. So being regular people, they laugh at him. Like, what are you talking about? You're crazy is probably what they think. And they just start laughing like, I'm pissed off at you for even saying something so ridiculous. To scorn. Scorning means that they, they're like angry. And I can see this. So when you imagine them, this is how I imagine. I imagine that he sees them, they have the wrong kind of thoughts, the wrong kind of faith, meaning that they have faith in death more than the faith that he can bring them, that God can bring them back to life, bring her back to life. And that he has to put them all out. These are the same things I have to do with my thoughts. I have to put these thoughts out the door sometimes, so I can see that what he does is she's laying here, and they're looking, and they are crying, and he has to put them all out. And he closes the door, like, get out. You got to get out. With that type of thinking, that type of belief, you got to get out, because it's not matching the knowledge of truth. That God can do what seems the seemingly impossible. He puts them out, he closes the door behind them, and he goes over to her and he takes her hand, and her hand is cold. She's dead. And every time I imagine this, I close my eyes and I can feel her hand in my hand. And he says to her, he put them all out and he took her by the hand and called, saying, "Maid, arise." And this is similar to the other story that we did the other day when he calls the young man back to life. But, the power of God is something we don't really have the full understanding of as human beings. And I can imagine that he commands her that, maid, arise. And God, who has all life and all power, he calls that forth. He calls life and power forth. And it comes into her body. And her heart starts to beat. Her blood is circulating. She opens her eyes. Her brain is working. And she sits up. Her spirit came again, and she arose straightway, and he commanded to give her meat. And her parents were astonished. So he goes, opens the door, they come in, they start hugging, and he charged them not to tell anybody. Now, here it is in the other. Okay, so let's just see it. See how much time I have. Uh-oh. I can't do the other one because I'm over 10 minutes. Sometimes I talk fast, and these videos have to be no longer than 10 minutes. So I'm going to have to edit out something and leave this in. But until tomorrow, then have a beautifully miraculous day. All right. And you can read this one on your own. Mark 5:35 to 43. All right. All right. See ya.